Peace and blessings, beautiful people. I trust you're well. I want to tell you a story. It's the story of my heritage. So, I was born in UK, and age 4, my parents moved back to Nigeria, and by default, they took me with them. I was in Nigeria, yeah, I was in Nigeria for 14 years before I moved back to UK. While I was in Nigeria, Lagos to be precise, what I learned about our spiritual traditions, our heritage, African spirituality, that it was evil. It was on television, down television shows. Um, the funny thing is, there were family members. There were people who would still go visit, you know. I mean, I don't even think we called it Babalawo back then. I mean, there were Babalawos and people said it, but I don't remember any of my family members going to visit Babalawo. But there were preachers, pastors who were actually practicing African spirituality. So they have a church, and then you go to them and they do all the rituals that they need to do. Now, when I say rituals, those my people from Nigeria, particularly the Yoruba ones, will think, "Oh, rituals, evil," and it is what it is. Anyway, as I said earlier, I moved back to UK. I was just turning 18, and I went about my life, and eventually moved to America. When I got to America, in my conversation with people, they would say, "Oh, you're from Nigeria? No, you're from Africa?" I'm like, "Yep." "Where?" "Nigeria." "Oh, are you Yoruba?" "Yeah, I'm Yoruba." I said, "Yeah, I'm Yoruba." "Yeah, I can tell by your name." And then they would tell me that they practice Ifa and they're studying to become a Babalawo. And I'm like, no, we're not having that conversation. No, that happened many times. I remember going to a metaphysical bookstore. The irony of it all. I went to a metaphysical bookstore, and this white lady, we were talking. She was at the register. And she said, "Oh," she asked me my name. She said, "Are you Nigerian?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Oh, I'm studying Ifa." And I'm like, "Okay, this is too much." Now, here I am in a metaphysical bookstore where Ifa is all about metaphysics and so much more. And I was being freaked out about my own culture, my own spirituality. And then she said, "Oh, my husband, he's a Babalawo, and yes, he's white." I mean, she was enthusiastic, and I'm thinking, what the flip is going on here? Because I didn't want to talk about it. I was programmed, conditioned to believe that my culture, my tradition, being an African, all of that is evil. And during that time, I was attending Hillside International Truth Center. And Iyanla Van Zant, she doesn't use a full name now, not to my knowledge anyway, would come to Hillside and she would share that she's a Yoruba priestess. Now, here's this Yoruba man, like, I don't know what that means, but okay. And one day it hit me because every time Iyanla came to Hillside, I made it a point to be at Hillside to hear her. Why? Because she inspired me. She gave me life. And then one day I thought, how is it that I don't want to talk about my African spirituality, my own spiritual traditions? The conversation around Ifa made me nervous. What is that about? But here is Iyanla Van Zant that I look forward to listening to, and she inspires me. Yeah, I'm running there, and she's telling me she's a Yoruba priestess. Something's wrong with this thinking. That's when I started to make the shift. It was slow, and I made it back home to myself. And it's still a process. There's some things I think about when it comes to African spirituality that brings up a little bit like, ooh, I'm not sure. And there are other things that when I hear it, just brings peace to my heart. And on my journey, I have really learned more about myself, about my ancestors, and what it means to remember to connect with your ancestors. Now, I find it fascinating when black and brown people, and Africans specifically, really, they're afraid of their ancestors, don't want to talk about it. And I also noticed that I could be a little bit judgmental when they said we don't have. I remember somebody telling me they don't have ancestors. I was like, calm down, calm down. And they said we don't have ancestors. We got Jesus. And I said Jesus is an ancestor. I don't know how that landed, but what I've come to realize, it doesn't matter if people agree with me or not. What matters is, am I willing to emancipate myself from mental slavery? We were programmed to be afraid of our culture, our traditions. And when I say we, I'm not just talking about Nigerians. I'm talking particularly people of African descent, African heritage. We were conditioned, brainwashed to think anything to do with Africa is backwards, even though they is part of us. So they is us. We are they. But anyway, that's a whole different conversation for another time. But you know what I mean. So I'm offering this workshop next week, October 25th, at the African Caribbean Center, representing our ancestors. And it amazes me the kind of conversations I've been having with people. And I think part of the shift for me is letting people believe whatever they want to believe, because I believe what I want to believe. So everybody got the right to believe whatever they believe. So the people I'm having conversations with now are people who get it. We have to break away from the BS. Why? Because we're going through and growing through a global BS right now. And the best way to stand tall in times like this is to deepen your understanding of who you are. Know who you are. Know who you are. Know who you are. When you do, you'll realize that humanity, you, me, us, we are going through and growing through a spiritual detoxification. And when you're going through a detox, you might experience some cramping, headaches, runny nose, runny behind. You know, it's sometimes not comfortable. It's painful. But we don't need to be afraid. We don't need to be fearful. We are joyful. But if we don't connect with that wisdom, our spiritual nature, our ancestors, we're here because of them. The choice is ours. If you want to join me for a conversation to grow and better understand yourself, particularly if you're in Leicester, in the UK, or if you want to travel, go to thebusinessofbeing.com and register. The time is now to deepen our understanding of ourselves and reclaim our power and detox our mind. I love you. I bless you. I appreciate you. And I thank God for you. Peace and blessings.